The wind that night in New York City felt sharp enough to cut through bone. Daniel Carter pulled his jacket tighter as he walked beside his 9-year-old daughter, Lily, toward their small hotel a block away. They were in town for Lily's medical checkup, a routine follow-up after heart surgery that had already drained every dollar Daniel had saved. Then a scream shattered the night. Across the street, outside the Langford Hotel, a man was violently dragging a woman against the stone wall, trying to rip a purse from her hands. Daniel froze. He had his daughter with him, and in the next few seconds, one decision would change all of their lives. Daniel Carter had calluses older than most people's careers. At 36, he'd spent nearly 2 decades working construction across upstate New York, framing houses in summer heat, pouring concrete in spring rain, installing drywall through winters that turned his fingers numb even through gloves. The work was steady. The pay was decent. But it was never quite enough, especially not after Sarah left. She'd walked out when Lily was 3, citing reasons that all boiled down to one truth. She hadn't signed up for this kind of life. The late rent, the tight budgets, the slow, grinding reality of building a future one paycheck at a time. Daniel didn't blame her anymore. That bitterness had burned out years ago, leaving only ash and acceptance. What mattered now was Lily. She was 9, small for her age, with her mother's dark eyes and Daniel's stubborn chin. She loved books about space, hated Brussels sprouts, and had a laugh that could turn his worst days around. She also had a heart condition. It wasn't life-threatening anymore. The surgery 18 months ago had fixed the structural problem, a ventricular septal defect that Daniel still couldn't pronounce correctly. But it required monitoring, regular checkups, specialists, which was why they were in New York City on a freezing Tuesday in February. The appointment had been that afternoon at Mount Sinai. Dr. Patel had been optimistic. The echocardiogram looked good. Lily's stamina was improving. No restrictions on physical activity beyond common sense. "She's a strong kid," Dr. Patel had said, ruffling Lily's hair. "Keep doing whatever you're doing." Daniel had nodded, relief loosening the knot that lived permanently between his shoulder blades. The checkup itself was covered by insurance, barely, but the trip wasn't. Neither was the hotel. He'd found the cheapest place he could within walking distance of the hospital, a narrow building wedged between a laundromat and a bodega, with a lobby that smelled like disinfectant and old carpet. $79 a night. No breakfast included. They'd checked in Monday evening, gone to the appointment Tuesday, and now had one more night before the early bus home Wednesday morning. Daniel did the math constantly. Bus tickets, $42 each way. Hotel, $158 total. Meals, maybe $60 if they stuck to pizza and deli sandwiches. The whole trip was pushing $300. That was a week's pay after taxes. But Lily's health wasn't negotiable. "Dad, can we get hot chocolate?" Lily's voice pulled him back to the present. They were walking down East 74th Street, the sidewalk still damp from earlier rain. The temperature had dropped since the appointment, and their breath came out in small clouds. "Maybe back at the room," Daniel said. "I think I saw a vending machine." "The powdered kind?" "Probably." She wrinkled her nose but didn't argue. Lily had learned early not to ask for things they couldn't afford. It was a skill Daniel wished she didn't have to develop. "How you feeling?" he asked. "Tired?" "A little." She squeezed his hand. "But good tired." "Like after swimming." "That's good." They were half a block from the hotel now. Daniel could see the faded awning, the flickering neon of the bodega next door. Almost there. Almost done with the hard part. He was thinking about whether the vending machine would take crumpled bills when the scream cut through the night. It was sharp, desperate. The kind of sound that bypassed thought and went straight to instinct. Daniel's head snapped toward the source. Across the street, in front of the Langford Hotel, the nice one, the one with the doorman and polished brass, a man in a dark hoodie had a woman pinned against the limestone facade. He was yanking at her purse. She was fighting back, one hand gripping the strap, the other pushing against his chest. The man jerked harder. The woman's head bounced off the stone, and Daniel's world narrowed to a single point of decision. The city had a particular quality on nights like this, cold enough that the streets felt emptier than they actually were. People moved faster, heads down, focused on getting from point A to point B without lingering. The wind came in gusts, channeled between buildings, carrying the smell of exhaust and hot pretzels and something vaguely chemical from the subway grates. Daniel had noticed it the moment they'd stepped outside after dinner cheap pizza from a place 2 blocks south, where Lily had carefully picked off the pepperoni and eaten around the burnt edges. "I like the cold," Lily had said, skipping a little as they walked. "It makes everything feel clean." "You say that now. Wait till your ears start hurting." She'd laughed and tucked herself closer to his side. They'd walked slowly, in no particular hurry. The appointment was done. The hard part was over. All that remained was killing a few hours before bed, then getting home. Daniel had felt the exhaustion sitting heavy in his bones, not from physical work, but from the constant, low-level stress of being in a city he didn't know, navigating systems he didn't understand, trying to make sure Lily felt safe and cared for, despite the tight budget and unfamiliar surroundings. "Tomorrow we'll sleep in," he'd told her. "Bus doesn't leave till noon. Can we get bagels before we go?" "Sure." "With cream cheese?" "With cream cheese." She'd smiled up at him, satisfied. The street they were on now was quieter than the main avenue. Residential buildings mixed with small hotels, a few dark storefronts, a dry cleaner that had closed hours ago. Their hotel was visible now, the sign half burned out, reading Tor-IN instead of Motor-N. But the door was there, and behind it, a room with 2 beds and a heater that rattled but worked. Lily had been talking about the book she was reading. Something about a girl who discovered she could talk to stars. Daniel was only half listening, his mind already on the checklist. Brush teeth, set alarm, lay out clothes for tomorrow, and then the scream. It wasn't close, but it wasn't far either. Daniel stopped walking. Lily stopped too, her hand tightening in his. "What was that?" she whispered. He scanned the street, trying to locate the source. There, across the street, maybe 40 yards away, outside the Langford. A man, a woman, a struggle. Even from this distance, Daniel could see the violence in it. The way the man's arm moved, jerking and pulling. The way the woman's body twisted, trying to break free. Lily's voice was small. Daniel's first thought was to look away. Keep walking. Get Lily inside. This wasn't his problem. He had his daughter with him. He didn't know these people. The city had police. Someone else would call. But even as he thought it, he was already moving. Not toward them. Not yet. Toward the hotel entrance. Toward safety for Lily. "Come on," he said quietly. "What's happening?" "Someone needs help." They crossed the street quickly, Daniel's hand firm on Lily's shoulder. The hotel entrance was just ahead now, the glass door reflecting streetlight. The woman screamed again. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had maybe 30 seconds to make a choice, and he already knew what it would be. The Langford Hotel sat on the corner, like a piece of old New York that refused to modernize. Limestone facade, brass fixtures, a green awning that probably cost more than Daniel's truck. This was where people with money stayed. Business travelers, tourists who didn't count pennies, people whose worlds didn't overlap with his except in moments like this. The woman being attacked wore a dark wool coat that looked expensive even from across the street. Her purse was leather, good quality, with a gold chain strap that the man in the hoodie was using as leverage. He wasn't big, but he was committed. Wiry frame, quick movements, the desperate efficiency of someone who'd done this before. The woman wasn't giving up easily. She had one hand locked on the purse strap, the other braced against his chest, trying to create distance. But she was losing ground. The man outweighed her by at least 40 pounds, and he was willing to hurt her to get what he wanted. As Daniel watched, the man yanked harder. The woman's grip slipped. Her shoulder hit the stone wall. Her head followed, bouncing off the limestone with a sound Daniel heard even from across the street. She staggered. The man pulled again, and this time the purse strap started to slide free. Daniel's mind was moving in two directions at once. One part, the father part, was screaming at him to get Lily inside. Lock the door. Call the police. Let professionals handle this. The other part, something older, something wired deeper, was calculating distance, angles, risk. If the man had a weapon, this could go bad fast. If Daniel left Lily alone, even for a few minutes, she'd be terrified. If he did nothing, he'd have to explain to his daughter why he'd let someone get hurt when he could have helped. "Dad, is she okay?" Lily's voice was shaking. Daniel looked down. His daughter's eyes were wide, fixed on the struggle across the street. He knelt in front of her, hands on her shoulders. "Lily, listen to me. Is he hurting her?" "Yes, and I need to help. But I need you to do something first." Tears were starting in Lily's eyes. "What?" "I need you to run into our hotel right now. Go straight to the front desk. Tell whoever's there to call 911. Can you do that? Right now, Lily. Fast as you can." She looked at the hotel door, then back at him. "What about you? I'll be right back. I promise. Lily." His voice was firm but gentle. "I need you to trust me. Go. Now." She hesitated one more second, then nodded and ran. Daniel watched her push through the glass door, saw her approach the desk, saw the clerk lean forward to listen. "Good." He turned back toward the Langford. The man had gotten the purse free now. The woman was on her knees, one hand pressed to her head, the other reaching up weakly. The man was already turning to run, and Daniel was already moving. He'd done stupid things before. Every construction site had moments where you had to decide between playing it safe and getting the job done. He'd climbed shaky ladders, worked under questionable loads, trusted ropes that probably should have been replaced. But those risks were calculated. This was different. This was him at 36, tired and broke and responsible for a 9-year-old, about to put himself between a desperate stranger and whatever came next. He didn't feel brave. He felt necessary, and sometimes that was the same thing. The distance between Daniel and the robbery was maybe 40 yards. In construction terms, that was about the length of a standard residential lot. In track terms, less than half a sprint. In the context of a stranger with his daughter safely inside watching through glass, it was the gap between his old life and whatever came next. Daniel didn't run at first. He walked quickly, purposefully, eyes locked on the man in the hoodie who was now trying to get the purse open while backing away from the woman on the ground. The street was empty except for them. No cars, no pedestrians. Just the three of them, and the cold wind and the yellow glow of streetlights. 20 yards now. The man looked up, their eyes met. Daniel saw the calculation happen in real time. The man was younger than him, maybe late 20s. His face was thin, unshaven, eyes too bright in a way that suggested he was running on something chemical. He saw Daniel coming, saw the intent, and pulled a knife. It wasn't big, maybe a 3-inch blade, the kind you could buy at any bodega. But under streetlight it looked plenty sharp enough. "Back off," the man said. His voice was ragged. "Not your business." Daniel stopped. 10 feet between them now. His heart was hammering, but his hands were steady. Years of working with power tools, of maintaining focus when mistakes could cost fingers, had trained him to stay calm under pressure. "Put the purse down," Daniel said quietly. "I said back off." "Can't do that." The man shifted his weight, knife held low and forward. He knew how to use it. This wasn't a bluff. "I'll cut you," he said. "Maybe," Daniel agreed, "but you'll have to get close to do it." Behind the man, the woman was trying to stand. Blood ran from somewhere in her hairline, dark against her silver hair. She looked to be in her 60s, well-dressed, the kind of person who'd probably never been in a fight in her life. Daniel could see her trying to process what was happening, trying to decide whether to run or stay. "Ma'am," Daniel called, not taking his eyes off the knife. "Can you get back inside the hotel?" She didn't move, either too shocked or too hurt. "Lady, move!" The man with the knife snarled. That was when Daniel noticed the sirens. Faint, but getting closer. Lily had done her job. The man heard them too. His eyes darted toward the sound, then back to Daniel. Decision time. He could run now and maybe get away. Or he could try to finish this, grab the purse, deal with Daniel, and still run. Daniel saw him choose. The man feinted left, then lunged right, blade leading. But Daniel had been watching his feet, not his hands. In construction, you learned to read body language before accidents happened. The way someone shifted weight before a load tipped. The way someone's shoulders tensed before a tool slipped. The man's rear foot had telegraphed the real direction a half-second early. Daniel stepped inside the knife arc, caught the man's wrist with his left hand, and drove his right elbow into the man's solar plexus. The air went out of him in a rush. The knife clattered on pavement, and Daniel found himself holding a gasping stranger while sirens screamed closer. The thing about real violence is that it doesn't feel like the movies. There's no soundtrack, no slow motion, no dramatic dialogue, just bodies moving, breath coming hard, and the stark awareness that someone's going to get hurt. Daniel had been in exactly 2 fights in his entire life. The first was in high school, over a girl whose name he couldn't even remember now. Clumsy punches thrown in a parking lot, broken up by teachers before anyone got seriously damaged. The second was at a job site 7 years ago when a subcontractor showed up drunk and took a swing at the foreman. Daniel had stepped in, taken a hit to the ribs, and helped pin the guy until he calmed down. Neither of those experiences prepared him for this. The man he was holding wasn't big, but he was fighting like his life depended on it. Twisting, kicking, trying to break Daniel's grip on his wrist. Daniel's construction-strong hands held firm, but the man's free elbow caught him in the jaw. Stars burst across his vision. He adjusted, got an arm around the man's chest from behind, and pulled him off balance. They went down together on the cold pavement. The knife was somewhere to the left, out of immediate reach. Daniel made sure to keep his body between it and the man. "Stop," Daniel grunted. "Just stop." The man bucked, trying to throw him off. Daniel tightened his grip, using his weight to pin him. 215 pounds of muscle built from years of lifting, carrying, hauling. "You're done," Daniel said into the man's ear. "Cops are coming. Don't make this worse. Get off me." "Can't do that." The woman had managed to stand now, one hand pressed to the cut on her head, the other braced against the Langford's wall. She was staring at them with wide eyes. "Are you okay?" Daniel called to her. She nodded, though she didn't look okay. The sirens were close now. Maybe 2 blocks away. The man beneath Daniel went limp suddenly, all the fight draining out of him. Daniel didn't trust it. He'd seen too many workers fake exhaustion right before trying something stupid. "Stay down," he warned. I'm down. Daniel didn't ease up. His jaw throbbed where the elbow had connected. His knee was screaming from hitting pavement. Adrenaline was making his hands shake, but he held on. 30 seconds later, blue and red lights washed across the street. A patrol car screeched to a stop at the curb. 2 officers got out fast, hands near their weapons. "NYPD. Nobody move." "He stopped the guy," the woman said immediately, her voice surprisingly strong. "That man saved me." The officers approached cautiously. "Sir, you can let him go," the first officer said to Daniel. "We've got him." Daniel hesitated, then released his grip and rolled away, hands visible. The second officer moved in, quickly cuffing the man on the ground. "You hurt?" the first officer asked Daniel. "No, I'm fine." He gestured toward the woman. "She's bleeding." The officer nodded and spoke into his radio, requesting an ambulance. Daniel stood up slowly. His whole body ached. His dress pants, the only decent pair he owned, were torn at the knee. His jacket was scuffed. He looked toward his hotel. Lily was pressed against the glass door, the night clerk beside her. Even from across the street, Daniel could see his daughter's face was streaked with tears. His heart broke a little. "1 second," he said to the officer. He jogged across the street, pushed through the door, and dropped to one knee in front of Lily. She threw herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck. "I'm okay," he whispered into her hair. "I'm okay, sweetheart. I was scared. I know. You were so brave. You did exactly what I needed you to do." She pulled back, looking at his face. "You're bleeding." He touched his lip, felt the split. "Just a little. Did you catch him?" "I did. Is the lady okay?" "I think so." Lily looked past him at the scene across the street, the flashing lights, the officers, the woman now sitting on the hotel steps with a hand towel pressed to her head. "Daddy helped her," Lily said quietly. "That's what good people do." Daniel pulled his daughter close again, feeling the truth of it settle in his chest. Good people helped, even when it was hard, even when it was scary, especially then. The precinct smelled like burned coffee and institutional disinfectant. Daniel sat in a plastic chair that was bolted to the floor, filling out a witness statement for the 3rd time. His handwriting was cramped from cold and residual adrenaline. Lily sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket an officer had found somewhere, working on a cup of hot chocolate from a vending machine. It was past midnight now. The whole process had taken hours. First, the paramedics checking him and the woman, then the initial statements at the scene, then the ride to the precinct for formal documentation. The detective handling the case, a tired-looking woman named Rodriguez, had been kind but thorough. "We appreciate what you did," she'd said. "But for the record, we don't encourage civilians to intervene in violent crimes." "I understand. That said, this guy's wanted for 6 other robberies in the past month. You probably kept someone else from getting hurt." Daniel had nodded, not sure what to say to that. Now he was just trying to finish the paperwork so they could leave. His phone buzzed. A text from his foreman back home. Asterisk heard what happened. "You okay?" Asterisk. News traveled fast, apparently. Someone must have posted about it on social media. He typed back, asterisk, fine, back tomorrow, asterisk. Lily leaned against his shoulder. "Can we go soon?" "Almost done. I'm tired." "I know, honey." She was quiet for a moment, then, "Dad? Yeah? Were you scared? When you went over there?" He considered lying, telling her he'd been confident, in control. But Lily deserved better than that. "Yeah," he said. "I was scared. But you did it anyway." "I had to." Daniel set down the pen and looked at his daughter. Her eyes were serious, searching for understanding. "Because sometimes," he said slowly, "you see something wrong happening, and you're the only person who can do something about it. And if you don't, you have to live with that. What if you got hurt? Then I would have gotten hurt. But I couldn't let that stop me." Lily processed this. "Like when you had to take me to the hospital when I was little, and you were scared, but you did it anyway?" "Exactly like that." She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her hot chocolate. An hour later, they were finally released. Daniel carried a sleeping Lily the 3 blocks back to their hotel. The streets were empty now, the temperature having dropped another 10 degrees. The night clerk, a young guy named Marcus who'd called 911, looked up as they entered. "Doing okay?" he asked quietly. "Yeah. Thanks for your help." "Man, that was intense. Everyone's talking about it." Daniel just nodded and headed for the elevator. Their room was exactly as they'd left it. Lily's book on the nightstand, Daniel's duffel bag on the floor. He tucked Lily into bed without waking her, then sat on the edge of his own bed and stared at his hands. They were still shaking slightly. He thought about calling someone, but who? Instead, he took a shower, changed into clean clothes, and lay down. Sleep didn't come. His mind kept replaying the moment the knife appeared. The feeling of the man's elbow hitting his jaw. the sound of Lily crying through the glass. He'd done the right thing. But right things came with costs. And lying there in the dark, Daniel wondered what those costs would turn out to be. The phone rang at 7:30 the next morning. Daniel had finally fallen asleep around 4, his body demanding rest despite his racing thoughts. The ringtone pulled him from a dream he couldn't remember. Unknown number, New York area code. He almost let it go to voicemail, but something made him answer. "Hello? Mr. Carter? Daniel Carter?" The voice was crisp, professional, female. "My name is Evelyn Harrington. I was the woman you helped last night." Daniel sat up, suddenly alert. "Oh, are you? How are you doing?" 16 stitches and a mild concussion, but I've had worse. There was dry humor in her voice. "I wanted to thank you properly. You don't need to thank me. I strongly disagree. What you did took considerable courage. Most people would have kept walking." Daniel glanced at Lily, still asleep in the other bed. "I just did what anyone should do, but most don't. Which is precisely why I'd like to meet with you, if you have time before you leave the city." He hesitated. "Ma'am, I appreciate the thought, but it's really not necessary. I insist. There's a cafe 2 blocks from your hotel, the Corner Bakery on Lexington. Would 9 o'clock work? How do you know where my hotel is?" "The police report." I hope that doesn't sound intrusive. It did, a little. But Daniel found himself agreeing anyway. "Okay, 9 o'clock. Excellent. And please bring your daughter. I'd like to thank her as well for her quick thinking." The call ended before Daniel could respond. He set the phone down and stared at it. Lily stirred, rolling over. "Who was that?" "The woman from last night. Is she okay?" "Sounds like it. She wants to have breakfast with us." Lily sat up, interested. "Really?" "Apparently. Can we go?" Daniel checked the time. Their bus wasn't until noon. They had nothing planned except checking out and killing time. "I guess we can." Lily scrambled out of bed. "I'll get dressed." 45 minutes later, they were walking into the Corner Bakery, a warm, bright space that smelled like fresh bread and coffee. Evelyn Harrington was already there, sitting at a corner table. In daylight, she looked different. Still elegant, but older than Daniel had thought, mid-60s, with silver hair pulled back and sharp gray eyes. A white bandage covered the cut on her temple. She stood as they approached, extending her hand. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming." Her handshake was firm. "This is my daughter, Lily," Daniel said. Evelyn smiled at Lily, warm and genuine. "Hello, Lily. I understand you were very brave last night." Lily ducked her head. "I just did what Dad said. That takes courage, too." They sat. A waitress appeared with menus. "Order whatever you'd like," Evelyn said. "It's on me." Daniel started to protest, but something in her expression stopped him. This wasn't charity. This was something else, and he was about to find out what. Lily ordered chocolate chip pancakes with a focus that made Evelyn smile. Daniel went with coffee and eggs, his appetite still uncertain from lack of sleep. They made small talk while waiting for the food. Evelyn asked about their trip, the doctor's appointment, where they were from. Daniel answered carefully, aware that this woman knew more about him than he knew about her. The food arrived. Lily dug into her pancakes. "She has your determination," Evelyn observed. Daniel glanced at his daughter. "She's tougher than she looks." "I don't doubt it." Evelyn sipped her coffee. "Mr. Carter, I'd like to have a frank conversation with you, if that's all right. It might be easier if Lily were occupied for a few minutes." Daniel's guard went up. "What kind of conversation?" Evelyn reached into her purse and pulled out a tablet, opening it to a kid's drawing app. "Lily, would you mind doing me a favor? I need someone to draw me what a hero looks like. Do you think you could do that?" Lily looked at Daniel. He nodded. She took the tablet and moved to a booth 2 tables away, within sight but out of earshot. Evelyn waited until she was settled, then turned back to Daniel. I haven't been entirely forthcoming about who I am, she said. Okay, my full name is Evelyn Harrington. Until 3 years ago, I was a vice admiral in the United States Navy. Before that, I spent 28 years working my way up through naval intelligence. Daniel set down his coffee. Your military was military. Now I'm the CEO of Harrington Security Solutions. We're a private firm that handles security consulting, personnel training, and risk assessment for defense contractors and government agencies. I don't understand what that has to do with me. Evelyn leaned forward slightly. Last night, I was mugged outside my hotel by a man with a knife. I'm trained in self-defense. I've been in actual combat situations. I should have been able to handle that encounter. He caught you off guard. He did. But that's not the point. She paused. The point is what you did next. I watched you, Mr. Carter. From the moment you realized what was happening to the moment the police arrived, you assessed the situation. Protected your daughter first. Evaluated the threat, intervened with exactly the right amount of force. And when he pulled a knife, you didn't panic. You read his movement and neutralized him without causing unnecessary harm. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. I've worked construction my whole life. You learn to react fast. You learn more than that. You learn to assess risk, to solve problems under pressure, to keep calm when things go wrong. Evelyn's eyes were steady on his. Do you know what I was doing at the Langford Hotel last night? I was meeting with the head of security for a logistics company that moves sensitive materials. We're in the process of hiring 50 new personnel for various positions. Guards, drivers, coordinators. Ma'am, I appreciate whatever you're about to say, but I'm not offering you charity, Mr. Carter. I'm offering you a job. The words hung in the air. Daniel stared at her. You don't know anything about me. I know you're a single father who brought his daughter to New York for a medical appointment. I know you're staying at a $79 a night hotel. I know you risked your safety to help a stranger. And I know you have the exact kind of judgment and integrity that's almost impossible to train. I'm not qualified for security work. You'd be surprised what qualifies someone. We need people who can think clearly, act decisively, and maintain their moral compass under stress. Last night, you demonstrated all three. Daniel looked over at Lily, absorbed in her drawing. I can't just uproot my daughter's life. I'm not asking you to decide right now. I'm asking you to consider it. Evelyn pulled a business card from her purse, sliding it across the table. The position I'm thinking of is based in Northern Virginia. It's coordination and personnel management, not field work. The starting salary is $78,000 a year, plus benefits. Full medical, dental, vision, signing bonus to cover relocation costs. Daniel picked up the card, his hands not quite steady. $78,000. He made $42,000 now, in a good year. We provide training, Evelyn continued. 6 weeks, fully paid. We help employees find housing. The schools in that area are excellent, and there are several pediatric cardiology programs nearby if Lily needs continued care. She'd done her homework. Why me? Daniel asked. You could hire someone with actual experience. Experience is common. Character isn't. Evelyn stood, placing money on the table for the bill. Think about it. My direct number is on that card. Call me when you've made a decision. She walked to Lily's table, looked at the drawing, a stick figure with a cape, and smiled. Perfect, she said. Thank you, Lily. Then she was gone. Daniel sat alone with his cold coffee and a business card that felt like it weighed 10 pounds. They missed the noon bus. Daniel called and rescheduled for the evening one, claiming car trouble. It cost him an extra $30 in change fees, but he needed time to think. They spent the afternoon at Central Park. Lily wanted to see the zoo, but admission was $20 per person. Instead, they walked the paths, watched street performers, ate hot dogs from a cart. Daniel's mind was somewhere else. $78,000 a year. He kept turning the number over, trying to make it feel real. That was enough for a real apartment, not the rented duplex they lived in now. Enough to stop choosing between fixing the truck and fixing the water heater. Enough to let Lily do activities, have friends over, not worry about every dollar. But it meant leaving. Leaving upstate New York, where he'd lived his entire life. Leaving the construction crew he'd worked with for 12 years. Leaving the familiar. "Dad, you're being quiet." Lily was sitting on a bench beside him, swinging her legs, just thinking. "About the job?" He glanced at her, surprised. "How did you know about that? I wasn't that far away." "I heard some of it." She tilted her head. "Would we have to move?" "Yeah, to Virginia." "Where's that?" "South of here. Different state." "Would I have to change schools?" "You would." Lily considered this seriously. "Would you be happy there?" The question caught him off guard. "I don't know, honey. Maybe. Do you like your job now?" Daniel thought about dawn mornings in freezing weather, aching joints, the constant worry about getting hurt and losing work. "It's okay," he said. "Just okay?" "Just okay." Lily nodded. "Mom left because she didn't like her life, right?" Daniel's chest tightened. "That's part of it. I don't want you to be like that." "Staying somewhere just okay. It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because I have responsibilities. I have you. But I want you to be happy, Dad." She said it so plainly, with such uncomplicated love, that Daniel felt something crack inside him. He'd spent 9 years making every decision based on what was safest for Lily, what was most stable, what minimized risk. And maybe that had been right, but maybe it was also keeping them both stuck. "Would you be okay with moving?" he asked carefully. Lily shrugged. "I'd miss my friends, but we could visit, right?" "Yeah, we could, and I'd make new friends." "You would? Then I think we should do it." She looked up at him with those serious dark eyes. That evening, back in the hotel room while Lily watched cartoons, Daniel called the number on the card. Evelyn answered on the second ring. "Mr. Carter, I was hoping to hear from you. I have some questions." Of course, they talked for 40 minutes. Evelyn explained the training program, the job responsibilities, the support systems for new employees. She offered to connect him with current employees who'd made similar transitions. She didn't pressure, didn't oversell. She just laid out the facts and let Daniel make his own decision. At the end of the call, he said, "I'd like to accept." "If the offer's still open, it is." "And I'm glad." There was genuine warmth in her voice. "We'll start the paperwork next week. You'll begin training in early April. Is that timeline workable?" "Yes, ma'am." "Daniel, you don't need to call me ma'am. Evelyn is fine." "Evelyn," he corrected, feeling strange about it. "One more thing. What you did last night wasn't just brave. It was smart. I want you to know that I see that. Thank you. Welcome to HSS." After the call ended, Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, staring at his phone. Lily appeared in front of him. "Did you say yes?" "I did." She threw her arms around his neck. "Good," she whispered. "I'm proud of you." And Daniel, who'd spent years being the strong one, let himself hold his daughter and believe that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. The office in Arlington had windows that looked out over the Potomac. Daniel Carter stood at one of them, coffee in hand, watching morning light catch the water. Behind him, his team was assembling for the weekly briefing. 8 people now reported to him, coordinators managing security personnel across 3 states. He'd been promoted 6 months ago. Regional operations manager, $95,000 a year. The kid from upstate New York, who used to frame houses, was now running logistics for government contractors. It still felt surreal sometimes, but mostly it felt right. His office door was open. He'd kept it that way since his first day. Something about closed doors reminded him too much of the barriers he'd spent his life on the wrong side of. "Morning, boss." That was Marcus, his second in command, a former Army Ranger who'd initially been skeptical of the guy with no military background. They'd become friends. Morning. We ready? Yep. Henley's bringing the quarterly reports. The briefing went smoothly. Hiring was up. Retention was good. 2 new contracts were moving forward. Daniel had learned the work quickly, discovering that coordination wasn't that different from running a construction site. Different vocabulary, same principles. Clear communication, proper planning, and respecting the people doing the actual work. After the meeting, he had lunch with Evelyn. She'd made it a monthly tradition, taking him to different restaurants around the city, talking about everything from strategic planning to Lily's latest school project. She's doing well? Evelyn asked. Straight A's, made the soccer team, has more friends than I can keep track of. And the medical follow-ups? All clear. Dr. Morrison says her heart function is perfect. I'm glad. Evelyn smiled. You've done well here, Daniel. Better than I expected, honestly. That's reassuring. I knew you had potential. I didn't know you'd exceed it this quickly. Daniel set down his fork. I never thanked you properly. For taking a chance on me, you thanked me by proving me right. Still, Evelyn was quiet for a moment. Do you ever think about that night, outside the Langford? Sometimes. Any regrets? Daniel considered. I regret that Lily had to be scared. But no. Not about the rest of it. Good. Evelyn raised her water glass. To split-second decisions that change everything. Daniel clinked his glass against hers. That evening, he picked Lily up from soccer practice. She was muddy and happy, talking non-stop about a goal she'd almost scored. As they drove home to their 3-bedroom townhouse with the good school district and the park 2 blocks away, Daniel thought about the photograph on his desk. It was from that night in New York. Not of the robbery. That would have been morbid, but of him and Lily, taken the next morning in Central Park. Her smile wide, his arm around her shoulders. The before picture, before everything changed. Lily was still talking. And coach said I should try out for the travel team, but that's a lot of practices. What do you think? I think if you want to do it, we'll make it work. Really? Really. She beamed at him. Daniel smiled back and drove them home through streets that finally, after 2 years, felt like they belonged to him. Not because he'd earned them through violence or heroism, but because he'd made one decent choice on a cold February night. And that choice had opened a door he didn't know existed. All you had to do was walk through. Sometimes that was everything.